When it comes to doing research, there is a lot of emphasis on having a good research question. And indeed, a good research question will make your life much easier, no matter what kind of research project you're starting. However, in quantitative research, the research question really is a tool for yourself. It guides you, it outlines the scope of the project for you. It is much less important for the readers of your work as opposed to qualitative research, for instance. What is far more important is that the question is broken down into elements that you can actually and more directly test. And those elements are called hypotheses. Those hypotheses are like statements that connect two or more concepts or subdimensions of concepts of your research question. So for example, if you want to know how students profit from teachers' written feedback, you will not just ask the students and/or the teachers these questions, but you will formulate statements of assumptions like students profit from teachers' written feedback if the feedback points out very specific aspects. Or in other words, feedback specificity affects learning outcomes. That would be our nice, clear, easy to test hypothesis. Hypotheses describe a relationship or a difference between concepts. We just assume that those concepts do affect each other in some way. When formulating your hypothesis, just be as clear as possible, right? You do not need to be inventive or creative, but just write them down as technically correct as possible. So let's have a look at another example. Say your research question is, how can older employees stay employable through informal learning? What concepts do we spot here? Well, mainly employability on the one hand and learning or informal learning on the other hand. Maybe also age, but for now let's just keep it simple and say that this describes the population that we are studying and it is not actual part of our model that we are testing, right? So when we look at those two concepts, how can they be further broken down? Well, of course, we need to look into literature for that. But if you look into literature, for example, in terms of what does make a person employable, then the literature says, for instance, expertise is one facet of employability. So we've broken down this concept employability now to expertise and maybe some other factors. And one facet of informal learning, on the other hand, could be feedback seeking, right? It is one behavior that is within that umbrella term of informal learning. So I could use this and formulate this as a hypothesis. Receiving feedback affects expertise positively. That would be my hypothesis, and that would be actually relatively easy to measure because it's really more down to earth than the research question. This is about measuring feedback or the reception of feedback, and it's about measuring expertise. And for both, I'm pretty confident that we will find measurement instruments in the literature. And also it's quite easy to test this because if I formulate my hypothesis like that, you will have a quite easy time to figure out which kind of statistical procedure to actually apply. But that, of course, is more a question to be answered in a statistics course. So I hope you now understand the role of research questions in quantitative research and how these questions can be further broken down into a set of hypotheses, which is then much more important for the rest of your research and for presenting and reporting about your research.